Vanguard Knights take on the Carroll City Chiefs. This broadcast is presented by Wise Guys Pizza, located in the Pearl Britton Plaza, and by Wireless Warehouse, providing high-quality pre-owned cell phones. This will be one of the biggest high school football games played in the state of Florida, and you can hear every second live on YouTube at WOCA The Source or on 96.3 FM. It's the high school football game of the week right here on WOCA The Source.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Thank you for tuning in. It's 6 minutes after 9 o'clock. Martin Suter is in the studio from Homeland Optical Technology from Ocala Palms. He's sitting in for Jim George. Jim is still in the hospital, so prayers for Jim would be appreciated. But we're going to dedicate this half hour to talking about technology, as we always do with Jim, and now 2 weeks in a row with Martin. Good morning, Martin. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning. Thank you.
Do you subscribe to a whole lot of technology, or do you pull away from it?
Yeah, I kind of don't. Jim is all over that, and I know quite a bit. Don't get me wrong. But when I'm out of it, I'm usually maybe sitting in the woods or sitting in a boat or
Oh, that sounds good. So you like camping and fishing?
I'm
and
kind of an outdoor kind of guy.
Really? Well, I want to talk about that. What do you camp in? A tent or a camper? What do you?
Well, I don't do a lot of camping, but I do have a small tent that pops up when my friend comes up. I got friends that meet in the forest to do motorcycling.
Really?
A couple times a year, and we go to
like dirt bikes, that kind of thing? Oh, really?
And it's Salt Springs out there. At Salt Springs, there's a campground out there, and we camp out there a couple weekends a year.
When you say camp, so is it a tent on the ground or one of those pop-up
It's a primitive
trailers?
Campground, so yeah, we're using tents, and
Wow.
there's one place to go get water. You have to pump the well.
Oh, wonderful. How exciting. I like to do that.
Now, I never did the rustic. Robin has done the rustic, like
Right.
you're talking about. I did KOAs.
Gotcha. Hey,
But it was a tent.
They work, they work. Yeah, it has a bathroom. It's got, and showers if you want to do that. But, it has the bear-proof garbage cans all over the place.
Oh, my.
Humans take a few minutes to figure out how to put the trash in it, but, once you figure it out, it's they're pretty neat.
So did we tell you that we were in the mountains in Arizona for my brother's memorial, and we couldn't get a signal? Did we tell you that?
I think you did. And you had to go up the mountain. And,
I had to climb up the mountain. So
That was pretty
so does that happen to you in camping? Do you ever have a circumstance where?
Actually, out there, it's pretty bleak. Right out there past Salt Springs, I can't think of the name of the lake. It's a lake. But yeah, actually my friends are not on Verizon, and they can't really get a signal.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah, the Verizon advantage. Yes,
Exactly.
I've actually been able to call home from out there, and they can't. So
Do you know when my son was younger, I used to take him camping, which I'm so grateful I was smart enough to know to do that stuff, because it left some really good memories.
Sure.
But the only technology we had that I remember in those days was a little TV. That we could pick up little signals from here and there.
Right.
And I think we used it maybe once.
like an antenna.
I had a big end. It's like and I remember I got it at Radio Shack.
Right.
And they said it was damaged, and they sold it to me for like $25. It was really cheap.
Gotcha.
And look for the damage. I couldn't even find it. They said it was scratched. So I said, geez, I'll tell you. I think it was originally $125 or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they did work. I mean, I also had one of those, and I mean, I still try to stay a little bit techie, but I'm a holdout, especially on the phones,
Well, we were too.
You held out longer than I did because I listened to you all the time. But,
But,
quite a bit longer actually. But
oh, really?
But I held out in doing sales and doing what I was doing. I was like, I don't need one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you about that holding out, because we did hold out. We got our smartphones. Was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we were going to New York, and everybody said you got to get a phone that you can get Uber through, because the cab cab system isn't as good as it used to be.
Right.
That was wrong. The cab system is fine.
Is it?
Wrong.
Yeah. But Uber was kind of cool.
Right.
And so we gave up the track phones and we got into the smartphones. So now, guess what just happened? I just finished paying off this phone.
Right.
$20-something a month. 2 years later, it's finally done.
Yeah.
First thing I get is another email saying, "Hey, you qualify." I like the word "qualify" for an upgrade.
Right.
Now, do I really need an upgrade, or should I just jump into the next thing? Because this is, I think, a 7.
Right.
And they want
all the way up to 11 now. I think
they want to sell me an 11. Yeah. What am I going to miss if I don't get that?
Well, the 11, from what I see, again, obviously every time there's a little more memory, but the 11 has like 3 cameras on it.
Why do I need 3 cameras?
Well, one's close up, one's wide angle, one,
Yeah, I heard that.
I don't know why.
And one zoom.
It looks pretty complicated to me.
Columbus had 3 ships. Did he need them? I don't think he needed 3 ships.
Not really. But yeah, it's just more memory, faster.
More memory might be a good idea, I guess.
I mean, you can put memory in your phones with cards, but
see, people tell me that, but I don't know how to do it. Is that little tiny card inside?
Yeah.
So is that hard to do?
No.
So what is that little card called? SD card, is it?
SD memory card.
So you take out the old one and put in the new one?
You replace it.
So what happens? Like, what's on that little card right now? All my phone numbers and everything?
I believe the actual SIM card has all that. I don't know I think it's a separate card.
Oh, that's maybe what I mean, SIM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is where I'm lost.
So when you're servicing Ocala Palms, what kind of things do you have to be aware of from the new upgrades and then from your customers? What do they want?
Well, again, as we talked last year, the infamous box. Everybody wants a box now. Mm-hmm. And I don't really blame them. I mean, I have a DVR, and I'd like to say I use it, but I probably have 150 things on there and haven't gone to the DVR probably in over a year. So,
oh, really? Yeah.
So I'm one that could probably get by without it, but we'd like to get the box. The new channels, again, as I discussed last week, that work on some TVs and don't work on others. That's really I'd rather have the box for that than, it'll be DVR functions and being able to use a menu and get your channels. But really, it's so that all the TVs have the cable again. Would be for the box. Now, as far as what I look out for, well, yesterday in the afternoon, I did a call and had spoken to the guy inside the house. Actually, he was talking to me about how he saw lizards going in and out of his box a lot.
Oh, my.
And I'm like, well,
that sounds like a country song.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, well, that's the least of your worries. As far as for me, I says, wasps are probably number one. And,
oh, my gosh.
And I said, I actually have never seen a snake in the boxes that sit outside in the yards,
the boxes are outdoors, okay.
But these boxes I'm talking about are on the side of the house, where splitters.
Right.
So I've always been more concerned about out in the yards, I'm figuring, and quite frankly, I've not seen one, but I've seen several in the house boxes.
Oh, my gosh.
When I open them up, they're in there, and I'm like, hey.
Why are they in there?
It's just they found a place, that they can somehow fit in there and get in there, and quite frankly, there's a hole where the cables come out of, and most of the time the snake doesn't
get back out.
Oh,
gets in but not out.
I don't tell anybody, but most of the time
the snake goes into your house.
Theirs, not mine.
Into that box. Wow.
So there was a story this morning about a snake in something in a dryer, not the dryer like where you put the clothes, but the thing that
dryer vent.
Yeah, something.
Oh, really?
The story this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's again, I can tell they're like black snakes.
So does
the kind?
Does the person who does your job in, let's say, Wisconsin, have the same kind of challenges that you? I mean, do we have snakes and lizards that they don't have up there, or do they have them?
Much. I mean, I didn't. Again, I did it up there too in the 70s and 80s, so didn't run across many wasp nests. Didn't run across any snakes. Yeah, it's a little bit different anyway.
Have you ever had to go to a home and you knew that they were like stealing cable?
Ooh,
Yeah.
So what did how?
Normally I'll let them know, or if they come out and ask me what I'm doing, because I can take care of that outside.
Oh, okay.
See, Robin's neighbor was trying to steal her cable.
Right.
He put
Yeah.
a splitter.
Yeah, he was. I was living in a duplex, and then all of a sudden my cable went out, and I didn't
Right.
know why. And then I called the cable company, and then they come out and they say it was unhooked, and then a couple, then the next day the same thing would happen.
Right.
And turns out my neighbor was unhooking my cable and hooking up his because he said since we live in a duplex we need to share.
Oh, really?
That didn't last very long.
Well, he should have
No,
shared
that
with a
didn't
splitter, and you
last
both
very
would have had it.
That did not.
But
last very
what is the
long.
legal problem there? I mean, does that person get fined or go to jail? What happens?
It's possible. I mean, again, I could tell a story. This is way back in mid '80s. I was actually a maintenance technician, and was we had to really search around for what they called leakage. We were, within 30 or 40 miles of O'Hare Airport.
Oh, okay.
And so we had to make sure the plant was good and tight and not leaking certain frequencies,
Yeah.
And anyway, I had a bad one, and I went up there, and they had what we call a trap on it, which is about that long, And I'm like, man, I just can't find it. So I unscrewed the cable, and when I unscrewed the cable, normally, it's got a little stinger on it, maybe a 1/4 inch up above the top of the fitting. This one had one about this long.
Whoa.
They had drilled all the way through the filter and had it hooked up, which is why it was leaking so bad.
Oh, wow.
And so
Oh, no.
Gosh.
I ended up, I unhooked it, and I heard one of their children came out and said, "Dad, the cable's out," That kind of thing, and I didn't really say anything to them, but anyway, we ended up in court, which was the first time. This was, again, way back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we sat down with the lawyer. It was me and my chief technician, and I think the GM. And we sat down with the lawyer and said, all right, anything that I really need to know that, I just really need to know before we get out there. And, well, I mean, you're the one that found it, right? I said, yep. And he said, no, we should be okay,
My gosh.
All right, so I sat down and, swore to.
Tell the whole truth.
And the other lawyer gets up and looks at me and he says, so you found this cable that you say was illegally hooked up? I said, yes, sir. He said, can you tell me the address? No, sir. He said, what do you mean? I said, no, I can't. I said, I was in the back of the property. We had alleys, I said, I don't know. I can tell you exactly where it was on the intersection of wherever I was.
Lawyers are
Exactly.
sneaky.
And 2 houses in, he says, do you know the address? I said, no, sir. And basically, dismissed, right there.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
And
wow.
I looked at our lawyer and I said,
Wow.
I did ask if there was anything I really should know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a quick one.
And
They got away with it.
That's crazy.
really sad because there are so many people out there that just feel they're entitled to steal stuff.
Yeah,
And get
yeah.
free things and not pay for it.
Right, all right.
And that is too sad.
Did you know the address? Wait, lawyers are sneaky, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I knew afterwards because I drove by, and made sure that a lot of times that it was not hooked up, because I was making sure he didn't get it again anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
But,
Were
yeah.
you ever nervous when you went to a call that it might be a bogus call because that happens and people want to rob you or something?
No, not even up there at the time, again, 70s, 80s. There was a few people that, I don't think anybody really got shot at, but there was people that
Oh, my gosh.
people that, came out with maybe a bat or something like that they were up there trying to disconnect them or something, it didn't really happen to me.
A bat?
Yeah,
Oh, a baseball bat.
Yeah,
Oh,
get
okay.
out of my yard,
Oh, my
Oh,
gosh.
okay.
You do it,
What about dogs? Do they ever sick dogs on you? Get them.
they could do that too,
Oh, how scary is that?
Here in Ocala Palms, there's none,
Yeah, same.
there's just none of that. It's a 55 and over, golf
Yeah.
course community.
Yeah.
So nobody comes out with you with a golf club?
No.
Is that the one we rode up to
And
on
actually,
bicycles?
we don't disconnect anybody out there, so
Oh, really?
they all pay for a basic through their covenants,
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's on West Highway 27.
Oh, okay.
Ocala Palms is
Yeah.
just past, about a mile past 75 going west
Oh, okay.
on the left of Publix.
Yeah. That's a nice community. I've been in there.
And how many homes are in there?
Almost 1,100, 1,080.
Okay.
And I am the only technician, so.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
So-
So you're there. So you're on call like 24/7.
I am now. Jim actually was
Yeah.
doing, I was the daytime 9 to 5, and Jim said it.
Okay.
So anyway, right now I'm 24/7.
So when the little dish antenna, well, a lot of people still use that little dish, right?
Sure.
Like DirecTV or something?
Sure.
And the cloud goes over and you
Yeah.
pretty much can't watch anything till the
Right.
rain goes away. Does that happen with the big antennas too?
It does.
Yeah.
Not near as often, and I have a little bit bigger ones out in my on-site than we have on that new one I was talking about, that they did a whole new one back here on 7th and sent it to me on a fiber. That one isn't as big as I'd like it to be, and it's gone out a few times when the clouds
Oh, wow.
Oh my
build
gosh.
up. So
We have a dish antenna. You've probably seen it in the back. Have you seen what we have there? We used to have 3 of them when we were at the Cascades. I have
Yeah.
Right.
no idea what they were for.
Yeah.
But they were obstructed sometimes by hedges or by trees.
right.
And so I was the guy who would go out there and cut down the limbs and the branches. And
Right.
sometimes I'd be cutting and nothing fixed it. And then we found a wasp had built a nest in that little...
Inside the feeder horn.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all that cutting I didn't have to do if I just knew where to look.
I've had that myself. We had one didn't have a cover on it, and couldn't
Oh,
figure it
gosh.
out. What was going on, and I think I saw, or the actual engineer was out and saw a couple of wasps flying around. And
Now, when you lay the cable and the fiber and everything, how do you mark it so like the phone company knows not to dig or anything like that? How do you do
well,
that?
and I do a lot of that out there. Well, we don't really market. First of all, pardon me, we kind of know where it is.
Yeah, you guys do.
The main lines and the fiber lines are all at least like 36 inches deep. They're pretty deep for anybody to be digging around. But what I have is called a locator.
Oh,
I put it on. It's induction, so I would put it around the cable in one of those boxes in the yard, and then I take a wand. It's almost like a metal detector. And,
Oh, cool.
And and then I got a stick with the trigger on it that the paint sits upside down, and So basically, they, if they're having to replace a water line or somebody's going to bury a cable, they call us with what they call a locate ticket.
oh,
And,
okay.
Melissa emails it to me, and I go out and put some paint on the ground, and, let them know it's there.
So,
You guys work together then.
Yeah.
Wow.
so I had a circumstance one time where my cable went out. And I called up and they said, well, is it plugged in? And they had me go through all these different tests.
Right.
And nothing. And they tested it from their end. They had nothing.
Right.
Long story short, or the rest of the story short, they came out and my neighbor had planted a garden, and in doing so, cut the cable. Literally, physically cut the cable.
It's underground. Yeah.
So you can't tell that, I guess, from your office. Huh? You can't tell that it's cut.
If you have my internet, I can tell that you're offline. Which means something's wrong.
So you would, could I have actually done that just by unplugging whatever? I don't even remember what I had at that time. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess it was the router or whatever, or the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi thing.
Well, if you had, again, I don't know when it was and what they did, and again, I'm a private cable company, so I check mine 3 or 4 times a day. I knock on doors and say, I'm showing that your internet's out, and they're like, huh? They never even call, or, I mean, people
Oh,
like
really?
Cox doesn't do that,
And how could it be out without them knowing?
They just don't use it much,
Okay.
or they'll say, no, and I'll say, yeah, I show it's out, and we'll walk in the room, and maybe it's on a light switch, or,
Does everybody know you in that community?
almost.
Yeah.
I have 4 years now, so.
That's the good thing. That's a good thing about a small community, right?
Yeah, good. You know, I try to keep it all good because, you know, if you go crazy, it can get bad fast too, you know, so.
When my father was a policeman in New York City, but then he retired to Florida.
All right.
And he took a job after he retired, and it was as a gas delivery man for Atlanta Gas.
Gotcha.
In Rainbow Lakes Estates, so it's a small community.
Yep. I know that.
Everybody knew him. Everybody knew my dad.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
So when people in your community, if they upgrade on their TVs and buy a different kind of TV, do they call you to help them hook it up?
Yeah, most of them, you know, no, don't get me wrong, there's some techie people in there, but there's a lot that, you know, in our system without a box, you do what's called a channel scan or an auto scan, or, you know, it's like having the regular antenna hooked up to it. You got to scan it, and, you know, that's kind of how we work. So they get the new TV and, you know, maybe can't make that happen, or just
I would call you.
Just want me to hook it up anyway.
Yeah,
You know,
I would call you if I lived out there because I'd rather have a professional do it than myself.
I mean, you know, what we try to ask is that you have it out of the box, you know, maybe the stand on it or whatever you're going to do, you know.
Yeah, right. Now that would be.
So when you
nice.
go camping, do you have like a shortwave radio or something with you?
No. I mean, no.
You're not into that whole thing?
We have our phones, and we all have, like, you know, I've got a little Bluetooth speaker, you know.
I love
So
my
that
Bluetooth
works.
You just
speaker.
set it on the picnic table, and, you know.
I use that all the time.
You know,
So
yeah.
where's your next camping trip to? Where are you going?
Well, it'd probably be up there. Again, that's about all where I actually camp, you know. I do it, well, I did a lot of hunting in Florida. I've kind of given that up, man, with,
Oh,
they're just so small. I've never shot one. I've seen 100 of them, but I've never shot one here because I do it for meat and they're small.
The deer?
yeah.
The
You
deer.
have
We're
to
talking
go
about
up
deer.
to
small.
Georgia.
Not guinea pigs. We're talking deer.
Deer, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear we had a story about guinea pig flavored?
I heard that
Ice cream?
story.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
I don't
It's a
think so.
delicacy in
You know,
Ecuador.
I mean, I like, you know, wild game, so to speak, but
No, not guinea
not
pig.
that. So yeah, I go to Indiana now. My brother's got about 10 acres up there, and
Oh, that's wonderful.
it's a little cooler, but the deer are like 200 pounds. So, you know, I bring it down here to a guy, Quality Meats there on Highway 40. And,
Oh,
really?
yeah, that's a good guy.
yeah, he takes care of it for me. And they want way too much money and take way too much time up in Indiana, you know.
So you kill a deer and drive it all the way, a dead deer in your car?
Yeah,
All the way down to Florida?
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you gut it and bleed it, right?
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah, you
skin
do all
gutted.
of
It's in
that.
one of those white fishing coolers, you know, with
Yeah.
ice on it.
In the back seat? What is?
Well, I have a pickup truck.
Oh, okay.
But I'd put it in the back seat if I had to. You know, I mean, it's fine. It's on ice, you know.
And one of the nice things that about people knowing you in their community is sometimes people just like to chat.
Yeah.
And you bring a friendly face and a voice just
Yeah,
to
I've been
shoot
known to
the
stand
breeze.
there and chat a little bit with them because we try to keep the plant running good, and you know, I don't stay extremely busy, so that's good. I mean, I'm busy. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
but I usually have time for a chat.
That's nice.
Martin, it's a joy to have you in the studio.
right.
Our prayers to Jim George.
Yep.
Hopefully he's making some recovery progress, and
Yeah.
and we'll keep everybody informed about what Jim is up, how he's doing. Jim, if you're possibly listening, we love you and
Yeah,
hope
we
you get
do.
well.
Prayers.
Yeah.
Martin Suter, you're great. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
doing this.
Appreciate
It's
it.
fun. All right, we will take a little break. Guess what's coming up now? We got a new show, right? That's
show,
next.
new show.
Traders
Garage sales.
Paradise, yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Stuff like that. So if you have an old whatever to sell, you can call it in about 6 minutes.
I have an old Corvette, but I'm not selling it.
Oh my gosh. Does it run?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
All right, this is The Source WOC. Thank you so much,
you.
Martin.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Justice League Estate Sales. With great